Hi, I'm Jessica Largy, the chef de cuisine at Wafu Restaurant in Los Gatos, California.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Jossel. I'm the chef owner of Nopa here in San Francisco. Taste these, you'll see why they're called butter beans. I've chosen to be a chef in my career because I love to feed people. I started cooking at a very young age. I was 14 years old when I got into the business. I know nothing else, but I love what I do. Early tomatoes from our friends at Tomatero, spiced chickpeas, mozzarella. There are pickled onions which can be removed with tweezers. Other restaurants put stuff together with tweezers. We just take stuff away with tweezers. Are we overwhelming you guys yet? A little bit? Good.
I've always wanted to be a chef. I've been cooking since I was about 5 years old. I went to culinary school straight out of high school, and I've been working in fine dining ever since. 4 VIP and lacquer, and then 4 other gazpachos. We have 12 people working in the kitchen right now. Table 11, 2 risotto. Garden next on 11.
The most rewarding things about being a chef are feeding people. You know, we do it again and again every single day. There is nothing better to me than giving somebody a plate of beauty. Cooking is my universe. I go to bed dreaming about it. I wake up thinking about it. Other than my family, cooking is everything to me.
Cooking is a very passionate, primal thing for me. It's very fun to work with things and see the chemistry behind them. I'm very much focused on a natural type of cooking style, accentuating what the product or vegetable or anything is versus manipulating it.
My cooking style is very simple, very rustic. When I look to food, I look for the ingredient first. And what I try and do is not to make too much of a mess of the ingredient. I get out of the way of the ingredient. When I think of Chinese food, I think of complexity. I think of mysterious things. I think of technique-driven, hot, fast cooking.
Sweet, sour, savory, bold, powerful flavors, very
Ancient, long, long history. Grandmother after grandmother after grandmother passing this beautiful food down.
rice, noodles, most things that you associate with Asian types of cuisine, but I really don't have much of an understanding of it.
I think of so many mysterious things when I think of Chinese food.
I've never been to China before. I don't know very much about China or Chinese cuisine. I'm really excited to learn about it.
I have never been to China before.
We're going to be traveling in Chengdu City
In the Sichuan province.
for 2 weeks.
I think this trip is going to provide so many memories and such an adventure for me personally and professionally.
I'm really looking forward to the challenge of having to be a part of a project where there's a focus on cooking, but something that I don't know anything about. I'm also really interested to learn about the vegetable cookery.
I truly believe this trip will be a great adventure for me. It's a cuisine I know nothing about. It's a people I know very little about. I always believed in the old adage of show me what you eat and I'll show you who you are. So I'm very curious.
I'm really excited. I can't wait to go to China.
I'm so pumped up and ready for this trip. I cannot wait. I'll see you there.
It was interesting to taste something that you knew was homemade.
I could go back and eat and eat and eat. There is the biggest wok I've ever seen in my life. There are only 1,000 pandas left in the world. 80% of them are originating in this place.
I found a place here that was on a very high level as a food destination.
I think we're looking at a very powerful cuisine, and I think we're going to see a lot more of it. nice people. This is our first day in Chengdu.
This morning we went to Mapu Tofu. The restaurant is 140 years old.
Started in 1862. That's unbelievable to me. We went into the kitchen.
The line was very different from a Western setup.
So many interesting things for a Westerner to look at. The dish specifically that was so curious was the Mapu Tofu. I've heard of this dish and I've tasted this dish in San Francisco.
It's one of the few dishes that I did recognize, but what I've had before was very different from what we had today. I thought it would be a very hard, fast cookery, but it was more of a very delicate and intentional cookery.
He was very comfortable and very exacting in the dish. Knew exactly how much oil to put in and to take out. Knew exactly how much chili to put in and then back off.
Very much watching the pot and moving things very carefully and with a lot of purpose. We got to learn about the ingredients of the dish.
I was surprised to see how many there were, including beautiful homemade tofu, which held its shape. He used beef, which I thought would be pork automatically. There was chili powder, Szechuan pepper, chili paste, white pepper. There was black pepper, lots of garlic, hoisin sauce, fermented black beans, and he used a little slurry of cornstarch to put the whole thing together. And also these beautiful little like garlic shoots. And we were expecting to have our heads blown off by the amount of chili in this dish.
The dish was outstanding. It was really layered and you could taste everything. This is a completely different flavor profile, especially the peppercorn, the numbingness as a part of the whole dish and the flavor. We went back in the kitchen and saw them prepare the dandan noodle.
It's a gathering of ingredients
with a little bit of onion and a little bit of meat.
With a complexity of chili and fat, which I thought was quite interesting as well. Another addictive kind of eating dish. Sesame oil, salt, chicken stock, and chicken bouillon, hoisin sauce, and a bit of vinegar, like a Chinese black vinegar that I've never tasted before. I thought was quite interesting.
The peanut butter was a very underlying flavor. The way that the noodles had this starch to them, it kind of bonded with the sauce and made it very enjoyable to eat.
Garlic hits and chili hits, and of course that Szechuan thing. My mouth has been numb all day, and I'm actually starting to quite enjoy it.
So this afternoon we went to visit the Wafu Restaurant, which is within a hotel. It's up on the 7th floor. We met Chef Huang.
He seems like a very young person, but he's running kind of a big show.
He has a staff of 50 cooks and I have 12. It was just such a different perspective, but also so many things that were so similar. He seemed to be really intrigued with what our philosophy was of cooking fresh and local and seasonal food, and we expressed how different it was from him cooking food that was so authentic and had such history to it.
He proved his mettle in the kitchen.
It was so amazing to watch him cook on the wok.
Moving that piece of equipment on top of an incredible flame, just hot situation, and coaxing great flavors out of these dishes.
It's so different from cooking in just a pan on a stove. It makes me want to learn how to cook on a wok now. I feel like I'm missing a skill.
Another way to say it is just a bad dude in the kitchen. He cooked 4 different dishes for us, and each one was more interesting than the next. He did a very simple dish in the beginning, which I thought was quite tasty, kind of a very maternal feeling dish. So obviously this guy has those kind of feelings. A Millet Konji, which is the rice porridge, but done with millet, which I thought was kind of a twist. Beautiful yellow color, some flowering cabbage on top of that. So that was a wonderful dish. I like the greens.
The greens are cooked very nicely.
And then he did this great fish. It was a river fish called tench, which I'd never heard of before. Kind of a bony little fish, about this big.
It was a freshwater fish, which generally has more of like a mucky, muddy flavor to it, but it was actually very silky and clean.
And on top of that, tons of beautiful green and red chilies with beautiful cubes of ginger. Kung Pao chicken, which everybody's had Kung Pao chicken, but not this Kung Pao chicken.
It was so different from what I knew of Kung Pao chicken and the American style.
soft meat.
The complexity of the different textures and everything was really interesting. It had a lot of acid to it.
Oh, I just got the Szechuan. Numb.
The bamboo dish, though, was what really stood out to me. It was so delicate and clean and fresh.
Bamboo shoots, which I've never had before. Those bamboo shoots were so crispy and delicious, I could just eat them all day. I can totally understand why panda bears are so into these things. Makes sense to me.
It's very good.
This is an awesome once-in-a-lifetime experience for me. I'm walking into kitchens where the tradition is 3,000 years old. I come from a tradition of 10 years old or 15 or 20, you know, when we talk about the old days. This is blowing me away. It really is so exciting. An incredible day today. This was our day to spend the morning at the Chengdu New East Cuisine School, which is interesting to me. I was also raised in a culinary school at the beginning of my career.
And it kind of was very reminiscent of going to culinary school, but in a very different structure.
This was very big. It was much bigger than the school I went to. 5,000 students over 3 campuses in Chengdu, all dressed in their various uniforms. The blue for the bakers, the yellow for the cuisines of all of China, and then of course the red for the Szechuan, which red with the chilies makes sense to me now.
I wasn't really expecting to walk in and see a crowd of students sitting there, but I really liked the idea of them all starting their day together.
We went up on stage and it was a very informal thing, but we got up and we were clapped at, and a couple of hundred kids asked us some very interesting questions about how does it feel to work in America? What's the difference between Chengdu and San Francisco? How do we feel about Chengdu?
It was really fun to talk to all the young students.
Remember how much you love cooking. Don't forget that, because it's a lot of hard work.
It is a privilege and an honor to feed people. It's a very important craft.
We were also then inundated after we got off the stage, and much applause, which made us feel like rock stars today.
And it was kind of a surreal experience. I've never been the focus of attention like that. Going to the class, though, was really the highlight of the day for me.
In front of us was this really great chef. Chef Xu has written books and has documentaries on him in China, and he produced a few dishes for the whole class.
Fish taste chicken, and then twice cooked pork. Cleaver is something we usually chop up bones with in my kitchen, and it was nice to see him using it for everything.
One of the things that intrigued me most was that the chef was taking it to a lighter way. He wasn't using a lot of oil, and he was also not using MSG. He'd worked in foreign kitchens and was trying to be more healthful, and that was a cool thing to see. The pork dish was great. Jessica, my partner in crime here, got to actually cook that dish with him.
I've never cooked on a wok before, which was a really great chance to do that in a classroom with someone who's used to teaching people, so it was less intimidating in that way. The hardest part for me was how to hold the wok. It wasn't necessarily that it was heavy or anything like that, it's more that it's awkward compared to the pans that we're used to holding in Western culture.
Awesome.
So we're here at the Chengdu Cooking School, and this is my first time cooking Chinese food, and we made twice cooked pork on the wok. It's a very different cooking experience. You can't toss the pan around like you would think, and it's a very different heat and everything. It was a whole new experience in cooking.
And then I got to cook a dish that I will definitely cook again, fish taste chicken. Chef showed me it must be the thickness of a chopstick. First, Chinese cleaver in my hand, butterfly it open, and then score it. So we score it one way, and then score it the other way. And the idea is that when you marinate this, it took on the flavors into the crevices of the meat. So we started off by taking this slurry of a little bit of egg white and cornstarch and mixing it together. And then loading the wok with oil. And then one by one feeding it into this beautiful oil. And it started to bubble and get crispy. And before it was totally cooked, but just getting crispy, we took it out, let it drain, and then frying it once more. So one is a deep fry and then one's a shallow fry. After that is crispy and delicious, it's put aside to a plate, and then we make this beautiful sauce, adding ginger and the scallions and the scallion tops. We chowed it, moved it around.